turn mine off. Okay, everybody, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Please be seated. Matt, could we have roll call, please?
Yes, President Knudsen. Please signify by saying here. Trustee Stoll.
Here.
Trustee Rhodey. Here. Trustee Prater.
Here.
Trustee Kreuser.
Here.
Trustee Grabowski. Here. President Knudsen.
Here.
Trustee Kelly Belt is excused and is not here tonight. The records will show that we have a quorum present.
Okay, item 2 is review, discussion, and possible action on the strategic plan spreadsheet and prioritizing objectives, strategies, and tactics. Matt, you wanted to start this out?
Yes, thank you, President Knudsen. So just to serve as kind of an introduction for our newer members, I'll run through a very brief summary of the strategic plan itself. The village has spent some time over the years developing a document that is called the strategic plan, and it's composed of 4 different sections. The first section is called an environmental scan, which is kind of the context of the village. It has a history of the village, land uses, an inventory of infrastructure, and a snapshot of village finances. Next, there are the results of some feedback meetings between the village board and staff and the public, where we invited the public in and then asked them a series of questions and then recorded their feedback to those questions. Third, it contains the results of a resident survey. And then the fourth piece is the actual plan itself, where it lists 16 different strategies for the village to pursue. That is just the plan itself was the piece that I included in the village packet for this meeting. The strategic plan was updated throughout the course of 2024. The village had used a former trustee who did a very good job, I thought, in leading the board through the exercise. And the updated version was adopted in fall of last year. There is also an accompanying spreadsheet that tracks the progress of all the strategies. Staff updated that piece over the winter, and the board reviewed it in February of this year, which was the last time we had a strategic plan meeting. So the packet material has the plan portion of the strategic plan document and the spreadsheet. And I've also incorporated any updates to the spreadsheet since February. So some of the strategies have advanced just not due to prioritization of the board, but because of timing and regulations. So for example, there are a couple of strategies that have to do with our water utility and looking at long-term water quality issues. And the village has been dealing with those or advancing those strategies all along. Number one, with the projects that we're working on to satisfy the consent orders from the DNR, but also that water study that the board approved at the last meeting, I think it was the last meeting, to comply with NR 854 and to kind of piggyback on the city study. So that's just an example of how some of these goals, due to timing and regulation, advance independent of this effort. Some of my performance evaluation are tied to these village strategies. One of the goals that the board set for me in January was to work with you to prioritize 2 strategies for me to accomplish or to make progress on this year. The last time that the board reviewed the strategic plan and the spreadsheet in February, you focused on 4 areas: emergency preparedness and safety on the beach, water quality, which I already talked about, IT security, and then evaluating village-owned properties. So those top three, I would recommend move forward regardless of priorities. Those are all really critical to the community and need to be worked on pretty much all the time. And we have, all three of those top three have a number of efforts kind of in motion at the moment. I've had discussions with both chiefs about emergency preparedness, and the police chief has a wonderful relationship with the school district. They have an annual drill that occurs before school every year, just as an example. And I've got our IT service preparing a white paper of the current security status of our network. So that leads us to the fourth thing, evaluation of village-owned properties, and that's kind of where I'd like to start tonight, and we'll see where the discussion goes. This is the will of the board and what you think is important for the community. When we talked the last time about village-owned properties, there were 3 projects that received some attention. Improvements along the beach downtown, a Riverwalk project, and a new building or community center in Kiwanis Park. And just because pictures are worth 1,000 words, I've got some visuals to show you guys for each of these. So this first one is just a set of pictures from the city of Oconomowoc and the beachfront improvements that they have installed to kind of serve as an example or a model. Start the discussion over. The very first photo there is just it was a conception, or it was a photo that the city itself took when they were constructing the boardwalk, and then the subsequent photos are photos from staff and visit. You'll actually see the village president. I attempted to thumb him out in one picture, but he snuck in there. This next set of documents is excerpts from a concept plan for a building in Kiwanis Park that occurred a few years ago, I think. So they had looked at 2 potential alternatives. This is the smaller of the alternatives. And since then, I think the idea, the location might be on the flip side of the parking lot. But this is just, again, just to give you kind of like a starting point of what kind of conceptual work has occurred before me on this project. And then this last set of documents is just a couple of aerial photos from of our downtown area showing Penny's Bridge and the existing Riverwalk. And we can talk about what's envisioned to add to that and improve those facilities to kind of continue connecting our downtown with the area just behind the downtown and the beauty of the river. I mean, certainly the village has done a great job at leveraging the lake as an asset, and I think that next on the horizon comes the river. In informal discussions with some of the developers of downtown, they have mentioned interest, or at least an informal willingness to support potential beach improvements, because that would certainly improve the draw to downtown, a riverfront or Riverwalk project. And the third thing they discussed was the Quiet Zone project, which we know is not, I haven't included it as part of my introduction, but it is one of the strategies, and it is one of my performance evaluation goals, and it is in process. So that's about where I wanted to start off this evening in terms of just putting a stake in the ground for board members. That is not to say that we can't talk about other tactics and strategies or other things to accomplish. When we talked about this last time, Trustee Grabowski had talked about maybe one of them being communication, which isn't part of this introduction. This is really up to the board of where they want to go from this point. So I don't know if there's any questions on these things that I talked about, or if you'd just like to start a discussion. As I said, the board has charged me with advancing on 2 strategies from this plan, so Even if we can't make a good hard decision tonight, that's something we'll have to continue working on so that I know which paths to pursue.
Are there any comments or questions anybody would like to make at this time?
I would like to make one statement in regard to the, what's being called the community center on here. Required as part of that development would probably be the parking that goes along the railroad tracks also, because you would be losing parking from the parking lot, probably in just about any type shape building we would be putting in there. So I would like that to be included as part of the process of understanding what would have to be done in order to be accomplished.
Are you talking about like parking on this side?
Yeah, angle parking on that side.
And then,
Right along Capitol. And when Bob and I met, what was it, 3 years ago?
Yeah, and Chris, I believe I covered some of this with you. This was part of, actually what generated it was the Bell Tower Memorial.
Right.
Wanting to come in here. We thought there was going to be more money available to do things, so we started not only looking at what the Bell Tower Memorial could be, but also what could we do with that side of the park. And one of those things was putting this Four Seasons building over there to utilize that would essentially look out over the lakefront, or not lakefront, the pond and the Bell Tower Memorial area and a garden area over there. And so that really generated it. The contractor, CCI, actually put together really great drawings and information in regard to this at no cost. And we appreciate their efforts in doing that. But that was really a lot of the work that was done along that way in regard to the Four Seasons had to do with that approach with Bell Tower Memorial originally.
So
oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Nope.
we just resurrected this conversation at the Park and Rec meeting this month, actually, and had pretty good dialogue. And Nick and team are gonna go back and look at a few different options. One thing he did mention was that there was some conversation about, the sheer cost and everything like that, of course. And, we kind of came back with, we did just bring like the splash pad to life, which wasn't crazily different amount than what we were talking about with this versus what that ended up being, which kind of helped continue that conversation with some of the other members of the board, and having a more positive outlook to the idea that it could actually come to fruition. One thing that Nick did say was, in comparison to that project, was that it is difficult from a Park and Rec standpoint, which I know we're not talking about this specifically being Park and Rec, but that he got like a buy-in, like stake in the ground from the city with the splash pad and playground. So he said, he's concerned about, from a Park and Rec standpoint, getting that buy-in, because this one now would be on village property, and understanding like who could really put the stake in the ground, because the city had committed to X amount for the splash pad and playground. So that was one thing that he kind of came back with as, how do I start and how much budget, or would the village be willing to discuss like, an amount that would be realistic, and then kind of go out to more private donors possibly, or things like that from that standpoint. So we haven't talked about the conversation in a while, Bob, since you left us over there on Park and Rec, but it was a really good discussion, and I think so. This is very poignant timing, but I think that is would be helpful to kind of understand like what would we be willing to spend? Are we willing to spend, you know, where does that conversation go? And perhaps you guys talked about that a few years ago, but I don't know that I've been privy to any conversation of true like dollars or, you know, how this would fit into our budget.
Yeah. I think we've got to be realistic and approach this as if this is going to be a village project at a village cost, okay? We do have a multitude of partnership opportunities available with the city on things that are going to be worked on, whether they have to do with the intersection of 164 in that road. Obviously, the water situation where the city wants to cooperate in regard to improving capacity in pumping and for a new development over on the south side. There's opportunities, I think, for discussions, but I think we have to be realistic. This is going to be on the village's dime, and anything we can get as far as a partnership would be fantastic. But again, we've got to be realistic.
I think we have to be realistic coming out of the discussions we had regarding the library. That's going to take, the stance that was taken on that is going to be the stance that's carried over to this, because it's no different. It's a shared building basically on village property.
Yeah.
Per se. So however that followed, I could assume that the discussion here would follow pretty much that same path.
Oh, did it follow?
You want like the 4-year version of it, or basically they wanted nothing to do with it and were ready to turn it over to us because they felt it was our asset in our community. So they were almost to the point of relinquishing their percent ownership in it just because they didn't want to pay for improvements that were needed going forward. So unless we wait an election cycle over there and see if the board changes over any there, but I can imagine, however, if staff and officials stay the same over there, they're gonna take that same stance here of going, we just settled this with the library, we're not making that same mistake again. But not to be a Debbie Downer, but some of us sat through very lengthy terms of that negotiation.
The sediment over there is really, it's our asset, even though they're gonna use it. And I mean,
It's a split, but they were ready to walk away from it basically to prevent future costs.
I think part of it might have been negotiations also.
Right.
That was their approach.
Yeah, so that's why I
It was resolved.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we should go into this expecting that we're going to be the lion's share of it. Anything out of that is gravy, we shouldn't be counting on anything.
Yeah, I would remind everybody that we were faced with the same thing when it came to the Lehman property. Obviously, we had that. It is a solely owned village property that generates income. This Four Seasons building would also have the ability to generate income through rentals and things, not to the amounts that we're talking about when it comes to Lehman property, but there's also benefits that come directly to us with that type of rentals also.
Yeah, and we talked about that too, which was a benefit when when you're putting in the joint park and rec board as well. And when we had just reviewed our park and rec feedback, and there was quite a bit of interest in something conceptually like this. Also, I think thinking of it more in terms of that with like a pool or some more recreational type things in the area, which we said like we don't need to count out, we could look at all of those options as we're considering it, and perhaps there's someone who does want to fund that because there's a benefit to their business down the way or something like that. So I think for Nick and team to take that and learn a little bit more and get some more like quotes, if that's the direction that we go, where it's more a park and rec initially, staff driving that starting of that process, that he was just looking for like, is the village going to put the stake in the ground and say that we're going to figure this out, we're going to do this, and X amount would be committed to from our standpoint. So in that terms, I think that's the next step in understanding if this could be actionable in the short or
I
long
mean, I think it's
future.
worth doing the due diligence to see the feasibility. It's a lack in the community. It's what's been asked for in the last however many surveys. Just like the water study we signed on to, it's one of those where we'd be stupid to not at least explore the option to see, because it's gonna keep coming up. And if we just go, well, we decided not to go forward with it, then that's a terrible answer to give to the community. So we should at least find out if it's feasible and how feasible it is. My only feedback on the concept, I would love to have it, I just wish it would be on the other side of the flag corps where the current pavilion is, to put it more central in the park. Just knowing the feedback we've already received from the neighbors leading up when the flag court was installed, as well as, I just think in terms of keeping everything cohesive towards the center with the new playground and everything else, like, I would like to see it kind of where the pavilion is currently, because that, yeah, that's just my only feedback on it, but I think it is needed it is something that's needed in the community.
There was a second building too, that was twice the size of this one, that would hold volleyball, basketball, and all different types of sports.
It had a gymnasium as part of the design.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. And the cost was, at that time, a little prohibitive, let's say. And the reason this spot here was chosen was basically for the flag court there, was for the war memorial. And there would be doors, like garage doors, that would open up. So if you had a wedding, reception, whatever in there, you could open those up and be out there and see all of that. But yeah, the first thought was possibly going where the pavilion is now, but for some reason, I don't remember.
Floodplain.
Floodplain, that's what
Couldn't
it
go
was.
outside the footprint of the current building.
That's what it was. I knew there was a reason why
Yeah.
developer put it up there.
Has anybody been to I forget the name, the official name of the park, but it's in Sussex. It's got green playground equipment. It's got a centralized building similar to this concept. Pickleball courts, splash pad, all in one.
Nixon.
Is that what it's called? That's Heartland.
That's hard.
Oh,
Lions
Sussex.
Park.
Oh,
Is it
yeah.
Lions Park?
Lions.
Yes, they have the Lions Days in the back there. Yeah, so we frequent that park often. And the reason why is because everything's centralized in there. It's really well done. We actually try to communicate and ask about renting the facility. It's rented out for like 2 years. It's a super popular park, super popular. So I think in any kind of planning of budgeting, this building is gonna be a hot commodity, big time. That'll help out with a lot. But obviously this is just a rendering, but I think we should, add in additional recreational activities. It's not a single pickleball court in the village, if you will. Right. Actually, the
I
city,
know Nettisheim,
did they install something out there?
yeah, I think there's two at Nettisheim, isn't there? They added them.
Yeah, another showing, that's one indoor.
Oh,
You said pickleball, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they put them in at Nettisheim this year.
Did they convert the,
Thoughts, or was it Nettisheim or was it one of the other ones? There are a couple in the village.
are there? Can't think of any. But anyways, but
It would be nice to have something like this that would be ending up similar to Lehman, where it's paying everything off by itself.
right.
Totally no tax dollar going into it once it's built.
Isn't the current bell tower over here though? Like right here?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and keep in mind that this concept was put together before the bell tower was put in.
Okay.
So
yeah.
bell tower is over right here.
Yeah.
I think there was another concept that we had that was more a rectangular building that opened up this way
Okay.
toward there, so.
yeah, I don't know that this is like the final,
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
you know.
Just an
by any
idea.
means.
Just
But I do think that having more, like recreational sporting, however that comes to be, especially in Wisconsin, where we, you know, can't get outside to do all those things and let your kids run around. I mean, it's really beneficial. I agree. We've also looked at those other pavilions and stuff, and they're, I mean, all around Lake Country, they're always rented for kids' parties or baby showers or whatever.
I think affordability is really important as well. I host 2 events a year, and we do not have affordable rental space in any Oconomowoc all the way to Waukesha. Lake Country Currents put out a event space spreadsheet like 4 years ago, and you can't get event space for under $300 unless you keep somebody. So I think that would be really great if we had affordable rental space.
I mean, there's all kinds of ways you could generate revenue with the space, even if the kitchen is robust enough where you could have catered events and, you know, things to a bigger service versus just like a small party. So I think if there's, you know, interest in from the village across the board, figuring out like possibly what, I don't know, what would be the first step, like figuring out how much we could reasonably cover from the village standpoint, and then getting some quotes back from some different ideas.
Yes, and this is the perfect time of year to do that, is, you know, we're just poised to kick off the budget season. So one of the things that I've been working on as part of my performance goals is kind of a financial projection. And that would be the first step, would be to kind of hone down a target. This is what we think we could afford.
Okay.
I'm hearing, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm hearing a lot of positive feedback from the board here. And I think maybe I could be wrong, but I'd like to see everybody throw some ideas together on a building, what they'd like to see in a building. Maybe taking this concept and going with this and maybe making changes to it, that would probably be the best. Or if you got something different that you'd like to see, and then let's make a special meeting or just have a regular meeting to discuss those, to put something together that we could hand off to someone that could encumbrance all those into a building so we could see what kind of costs we're looking at.
I think it would be important for us to share everything that we had from the work that was done 3 or 4 years ago.
Right.
Because we did that.
Yes.
Okay. And we spent a lot of time with CDI in putting that information. Nick was part of that discussion also.
Right.
Share that information out so that we're not doing duplicative effort. I think what's going to be important is that we've got multiple important things on here. I think it's going to be important for us to really rank what we feel are the important things. We've got a suggestion for the lakefront area. We've got the riverfront part. We've got the park area. You know, there's four different things we're talking about them. All of them would come at great cost. What is the priority? What's number one?
Well, with the businesses, or a business, or maybe businesses, I'm not sure, willing to help fund the downtown lakefront, that's a big start. I think the park would probably be the second one, because that has been something that every survey people have said they'd like to have. And the one thing that is missing in here that I think would be really good, excuse me, is having been at one in Montello, they actually had a bar that was part of it. They had a liquor license in there. And if you own a business, if you've ever owned a bar business, that's where you make your money. And, you know, depending upon how you do the weddings, that could be something that would be very beneficial, or whatever else.
Yeah, I agree. I like that idea. So when we got the Park and Rec feedback back, aquatics was like our number 2 suggested thing that in the area, things and various like pool, but then also like swimming lessons, senior type aquatic classes, you know, things of that nature. So that's when we were kind of talking about, could there be some sort of like a pool situation? Is that, I know the YMCA is coming in like a year or so, I think, over by WCTC, and I'm assuming they'll have a pool, so I don't know if that would change the opinion from the community, but that was larger than it's been in the past, from the feedback was what we were talking about. And I just lost my second thing.
I would say that, to Bob's point, which would be the number one, because the 150th is coming up, I'm hoping that we would need the extra parking along Capitol for all the events that I'm not sure what's gonna be doing, but for the events that are gonna be downtown and in the area, I think that would be our first look to see what kind of cost we would entail putting all that parking, angle parking in Capitol.
You think
So we have more
You think we'd be
available.
able to get angled parking in on Capitol before the 150th?
I think we could. I don't think it would be that hard.
What's the 150th again? Next year, right?
Well, I guess the hard part is the money.
Yeah, that's what I mean, that's the hard part, the money.
Physically, no, but financially, I think, you know.
Yeah, well, I think that when you look at those three items between parking, park building, and lakefront, the one that is probably the most feasible in a short period of time is gonna be the parking.
Right,
Okay, the benefit of the parking is it's something that's gonna have to be done. It's something that will benefit us whether or not we have a park building put in place.
It'd be cool just to have the concepts, though. You can put the parking down, and then you can have like some cool big poster and saying, coming soon, you know, and then have this big, beautiful building designed up. And the Riverwalk, too.
Yeah.
Or the boardwalk.
So all the neighboring communities have implemented these type of things, right? Like Oconomowoc, Sussex, Heartland, Delafield, like they all have these kind of things. How is everyone affording that? Real question.
They did it a long time ago.
Not necessarily.
Yeah, because I mean, Sussex fully guts a park every year.
Like, honest question, do you know?
Well, I'd have to do research to see how they funded each individual project. In general, I think it would work like the DPW building, where we would borrow for the construction costs and pay that back over time. The cost estimate for the smaller building that was in the CCI materials was, I think, a $1.8 million estimate. And bear in mind, that was 4 years ago, the
Yeah.
supply chain, the pricing and the construction has changed a little bit since then, but,
You said 1.8 for this 3 years ago?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, right.
See, and then you've also got to figure that the village is unique in that it's got two things that we're looking at. We're looking at the lakefront, which is a big benefit, which would be cost. Then we have a park that we'd like to really build up. Sussex, they don't have the lakefront, so all their money and all their interest went into the park. So, you know, they had money. That's where their money came from.
Well, what about Oconomowoc? You know?
They have a park, too, or a lakefront, too. Yeah.
I think that's such a
And
good
parks.
idea.
Yeah, the benefit that Oconomowoc and Heartland, they both have land for real growth, which we can't, you know, we don't have land for real growth over and above what we have available right now. You know, so for us to show huge increases in revenue is more difficult than it is. Oconomowoc, just the Paps Farms, the amount of growth out there is just unbelievable.
Which is what gives me pause on some of these projects coming in the village, or on any talk of taking on debt, because, for that exact reason, because Oconomowoc could go out and write a check knowing that they have land to sell off, or as developed, we'll get a bigger revenue share from the state, to where they know that they can get more funding in the future, where we don't. So it's a lot easier to get that financing, feel good about getting that financing when you feel more confident about the repayment of it, knowing that your revenue is gonna grow. We don't have that luxury. So that's why we, I guess pun intended, have to be very strategic about this.
Right.
Like, you know, don't get me wrong, I wish, you know, we can get this magic donor to give us $500 million somewhere that leaves it in their will, and we could knock all these out in a couple of years and give every resident what they want. But realistically, we're looking at about one of these that are feasible to start with, and what we could accomplish after that.
I mean, I do think there are people that are willing to donate to these different things, and, you know, being able to be flexible with what their needs might be and bringing the right people in at this stage. I mean, just looking at like, comparing it to the splash pad, but because that really was done by donors, large donors, not just the little ones, like he's primarily the large ones. You know, the other option, Bob, I don't know how you feel about this, like for that type of a project would be like borrowing from the Lehman Fund, like would that be some, and borrowing, like paying it back if we had some sort of rental income stream coming from here? You know, there's an option for that too.
That's not making much money though.
Lehman.
Yeah.
Lehman's what, at 300,000?
300?
It's surplus, right?
Surplus, yeah.
Yeah. But it's only generating money. Last minute. So I've got an idea, and I want to say it before I forget it, if that's okay. Is anybody involved with, are we in negotiation talks or at any level with the school district? Like, they obviously have, you know, school board. Do we have any representatives there? Do we talk with anybody there? Nothing like that?
I talked with staff, administrative staff.
Okay.
Just for an example, we have an agreement with them to provide security services. We provide 2 officers on campus, and they reimburse us for that cost, or they pay for them. And so I've got regular communication with their finance director, I think it is, or the assistant superintendent, whatever that position is.
I'm just brainstorming. I've got a baseball shirt on, huge baseball fan. The Pewaukee baseball facilities at the varsity level are absolutely at the bottom tier in the Lake Country area. And for years, they've been going back and forth and developing a new stadium. And currently, they play at WCTC and JV plays at Kiwanis. I'm just thinking of maybe developing that field into a beautiful varsity field around this. And they could potentially help with parking, fees, et cetera, on a shared agreement. Just a thought. I just didn't know if we had any kind of conduits to them and see if they're, because they had something put together way out that way and it fell through, and I think a developer came in and overbid and bought that stuff, and I believe they're doing apartments out there now. But just a thought. You were saying strategic funding,
Yeah.
things like that. I know it's a little bit ahead of our skis, but I think it's very feasible to do something extremely awesome at the park. And my personal opinion is the lakefront is great for what it does now. That should actually be a little bit lower priority, in my opinion. Just thought.
Any other comments or questions?
I have no issue with that concept, or it's gonna take creativity to try to find funding for
Right.
this.
Should we,
So there's no reason to not overturn stones.
Yeah, now's the time to think that, you know, of all the options and have the white space, like ideas. I mean, we talked about the pool and the school as well. Like if that was a pool if there was a pool that we don't have one at the high school, they go to Waukesha North, I believe. So like, is there an opportunity to share that type of a cost or, you know, usage? So I think there's a lot of opportunities. There's also a lot of people who are invested in making Pewaukee better as well, so.
And you said the splash pad was predominantly funded by donations, is that correct? How do you tastefully and tactfully do that?
Naming rights and.
Yeah, okay, but like, do you say like, hey, like, do you wanna donate $100,000 and you'll go your name on a plaque? Like, okay.
They did,
I'm
they
like, how do you
did, so
do
the
this?
Park and Rec did, and so Nick actually said that really that was not done by all the little donors, like, you know, contrary to, I think, what a lot of people think. He said it really was like 3 big donors that made that thing actually come to fruition, and it was naming rights, like it's Garrison's, you know, splash pad, and we could do something similar here too, like we could have naming rights. I mean, PYB, we do that at the sports complex, like with how we raised a lot of, or how they raised a lot of money for improvements down there. So yeah, there's, I mean, fundraisers, you know, they did like a gala for it and stuff like that.
So should we ask staff to kind of look into the parking? And then maybe Bob sharing what information you have? I think, and then,
From the park building?
yeah, and then bring this back at another time?
And then are we gonna be tasked with kind of coming up with our own, maybe some concepts,
Yeah,
ideas? and
I think
thoughts?
it would be a good idea, after Bob gives out the,
Village President, what I would suggest is, why don't you assign 2 people to each one of these 2 major ones? And just do the background work, and
Okay.
report back.
well, you've been on it.
Yeah, and I could take either one of them, that's, it'd be part of either one of them.
Would somebody, you want somebody with you on this?
Yeah.
I mean, I'll do the park building with you.
Yeah, because you're on
Okay.
Park and Rec, so that would be a good thing.
Yeah.
Jim? Parking?
No, well, how about Lakefront?
Yeah, I have, to be honest with you, I have no interest in dealing with parking around that park, just because, I mean, no offense, but from a DPW standpoint, I look at so many other roads that should take priority, so I'm not the point person
Sorry.
to champion that cause, so.
Okay.
But would you take the Lakefront portion?
So, we're talking about a second priority now, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think we're still looking at them being equal priority.
Okay.
And what we'd like to do is have a couple of people work on each one of the projects, and then come back and then make the decisions on what is the priority.
Okay, oh, gotcha. Well, I mean, you and I were tackling the lakefront and river kind of simultaneously, so I would be fine continuing that route, because I think one plays into the other. I mean, if we're gonna look at one, we might as well look at it holistic for the river and the lakefront, and that's not a heavy lift to do that at the same time.
Who would you like to be with?
Well, and say Bob and I have already been tackling that.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know if, Bob, you're already in on this park one, I don't know if, whatever.
Well,
But we've already
and I'm
had the
fine with either
meetings.
one, yeah, I can do both, I don't care.
I mean, we've already had the meetings
Yeah.
with the developers and such, and with,
You're talking about the lakefront and the park thing.
And the park building.
Okay, then we just need 2 people on the parking lot.
Well, you know.
Or is that gonna be
I
part of
think,
it?
Matt, that is something that I think if we figure out, you know, we do some basic work on what is allowable with the railroad along there, and I don't think we need to have 2 people working on it.
Okay, right, just wanted to check.
So just for the board's input, or for their information, I've got a request to R.A. Smith, it's a village engineering firm, to come up with a proposal to survey that area to see what, you know, to determine where the railroad right-of-way ends and where the village right-of-way begins. And that'll,
On which end?
on Capitol, but across from the park. Because that would be the first step, as Bob was saying, to determining how feasible any kind of parking is on that side of the street.
We would also need a walkway too then.
Well, that's
Across
just,
and a sidewalk down.
that's just it, is expanding that parking, which I agree with is well and good and absolutely necessary if we do put a community building there. But I think somehow connecting Village Park to the downtown would make that parking more important. I don't know, I'm looking at down on the north end where we have our little parking lot right there to try to figure out, like, more pressing to try to say, how do we expand parking down there? Because then that affects the downtown parking area, which is what is a top concern of residents right now. The parking at Village Park expanding would be only really necessary, I feel like, if we add the community building.
Would it be possible to include as part of that parking project, looking at expanding the municipal lot?
Yeah. I mean, you're right, it actually should, because if we're gonna make it a strategic topic, it should be about finding feasibility and options on it, and presenting back what is a more realistic approach. So yeah, I agree, it should be.
Well, from some of the events I've seen, parking, people are parking all the way down to the Kev Park, to the Village Park, and they're walking the sidewalk up. So if you had crosswalks strategically planned all the way up, going from one side to the other side to the sidewalk, that would take care of that. So you would still then have all that availability for parking. I just think the more parking we can get in the areas, we're gonna need it sooner or later, so, especially if we put in a park building. So I think with that being said, unless there's more comments or questions, is there anything else that anybody wanted to talk about this evening? And if there is,
I mean, just real quick regarding, rather than just adjourning right now or what have you, in regards to like the lakefront and the river, I think it's kind of imperative to, as I said, put these together and make them a holistic approach. And that's what Bob and I have talked about with the developers and such downtown so far, because we've kind of, for lack of a better term, piecemealed our downtown together based upon generosity from the community or developers or whatever, when we can, or Park and Rec, when a project wants to come about, hey, does it improve the downtown? Great, let's do it. But like, for instance, the ski team is looking at replacing their dock right now because it's at the end of life. And I've told them, get numbers together, get an idea what you want, but do not think of pulling the trigger on ordering something, bring it to the board and let us see concept and make sure that it fits with what we want to see in the downtown. So it's things like that to where now I think, just so that the rest of the board is aware, that we need to take a bigger picture approach for our downtown. And I think that's where we'll have to try to come out with what is feasible along the beachfront there, as well, and through Lakefront Park, and then expanding the Riverwalk, which we've already had some good conversations and meetings with potential for DNR grants and such to be able to shore up the river, and as we saw after this past week, help with erosion control and everything else. Unfortunately, the new boardwalk that was just installed by the high school and the River Partnership was still usable, but severely damaged with the flooding, so.
Yeah, and when you're thinking Riverwalk, I guess what we're anticipating with the Riverwalk, it's something that's lit, that can be used during the night, that people feel comfortable and safe walking through, and that it will connect to Kemp Park.
So it's another access for the businesses in Lakefront Park, which makes it more feasible for people to park in Kemp Park to get to Waterfront Wednesdays or the ski show or something, whereas now they don't, not that they don't see it as a possibility, but you have to go over and down.
Is Kep Park the parking lot?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Penny's Bridge and,
Yeah, got it. Okay. It's a parking lot, not a park.
Oh, no, there's benches and there's boardwalk and there's fishing spots and.
That's part of the park there?
Yeah.
Okay, and then that's Penny's Bridge, right? Right there? Okay.
So, but yes, the main characteristic of it is parking lot.
Yeah.
There's no swing sets,
And right now, a lot of water.
a lot of water,
That water.
big lake.
Anybody else? Any other? If not, I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
Here, Penny's Bridge, and then like
Make a motion to adjourn.
here or on this side, yeah. whatever.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? We are hereby adjourned.
And walkable walk right here.
Okay, the regular village board meeting will start immediately following the adjournment of the special village board meeting, which begins at 5 o'clock. I hereby call to order the village